So what I'm hearing right away is they're just not mixing together. So we're going to add some sidechain later because I know that's, if you're an intermediate to advanced music producer, you know that you need to sidechain the bass to the kick to make room in the mix. But I'm going to listen to this without sidechain because I want to get an idea of how loud I should have it. Okay, that sounds good. The reason I like to gain stage without sidechain is because typically whenever I'm mixing with the sidechain on, I tend to put things louder because the sidechain is moving the conflict parts out of the way. So I feel like I can get away with turning the sound up. But in reality, when you turn the sidechain off, it's just way, way too loud. So that's why I like to do my gain staging without a sidechain, and then I'm gonna add the sidechain. So that's what we're gonna do now. So some people like to sidechain it to the kick itself. I think it's a little bit easier to use like a ghost track or a ghost trigger. And what that is a track that has a sound following the kick pattern, but the sound is turned off, so you're not actually hearing it. This is useful because in our case, the techno kick that we're using, it's a really long sample. It's like a quarter note long and it's just like a brick. It's just like a fat brick. So if we use something like a hi-hat, like a closed hi-hat, which is really short, the input signal going into the sidechain will be shorter. And if we want it to be longer, we can just turn up the release. It's kind of hard to do it the other way around. You can get away with using like input EQs on the compressor, but to me, it's just easier to do it this way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this kick track that we have. This is why I like to use MIDI, because doing it with audio, it's just a lot of copying and pasting. And we're just gonna call this sidechain trigger. And we'll make this track white. Anytime I'm not using something, I make it white. For me, it just signals to my brain that I'm not using it. So then we're gonna turn this off. I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna make this sound really short. So if we listen to it, and maybe let's even turn down the sustain. Now we just have the attack. If we go to our bass group, let's add a compressor, and we're gonna open up this sidechain toggle, select sidechain, and we're gonna do audio from sidechain trigger. And let's make sure we have it at post effects. If we do post mixer, then the track would actually have to be on for it to take effect. So just make sure it's not on post mixer. And if we press play, and now we can drag the threshold really low, and we get this nice shape. So let's listen to the bass line. I think by default I have the EQ on. You can turn it off. And I like how that sounds. It has a nice groove to it. What I'm most concerned with is the groove. I'm not really concerned with there being like no bass notes at all when the kick is happening, because sometimes it just doesn't sound natural. I just want a nice pump and groove. So if we unsolo this and we listen to everything, I think that sounds good. I think we can turn it up a bit, like a dB or two. And maybe we can turn the ratio down. So typically what I like to do when I'm trying to dial in these sidechain settings is I'll leave the ratio at 4 and I'll drag the threshold down until I'm getting the groove that I want. I kind of like this groove. Let's try a lower threshold. I actually like that better. It's less like of a dramatic pump and more like a straight across 16th note. And then once we get the groove that we like, we can dial in the intensity or how far the compressor is ducking down by using our ratio knob. So you can see this number in the bottom right corner. Right here, it's saying we're ducking negative 10.7 dBs. So we can make that duck less intense by lowering the ratio. Now we're only ducking negative 6 dBs, or we can make it more intense by increasing the ratio. So now we're ducking negative 14 dBs. It's all to taste, but that's why I focus mainly on the groove that we're creating. So I'm just gonna bring this ratio back down to 4, and let's turn the attack all the way down. Once the signal from the sidechain trigger crosses over the threshold, we want the sidechain compression to immediately happen. So that's why we need to turn the attack all the way down. Now let's listen to it without the sidechain. It just makes the mix sound a little bit cleaner to me. To me, when the sidechain is off, it feels like it just gets so messy in the low end with the bass and the kick happening at the same time. And when I turn the sidechain on, I feel the transient of the kick just punching through the mix a lot more. There's multiple ways you can do this. There's a plugin called Kickstart 2 that I use a lot of the time. And if we turn off the compressor and we just listen to Kickstart 2, I think this does a little bit better of a job, but I did want to show you how to do it with the stock compressor and do it the traditional way, just so you don't need to go out and buy an extra plugin. So let's just go with the stock compressor. I do think that it creates like a more natural sound, and I like it in this case.